Now, in terms of the NPT, two things to mention about that really, I suppose, are the problem with the UK government and the NPT, and this is perhaps one of the problems with the NPT in itself, is that even though the Non-Proliferation Treaty in Article 6 says that the UK, the UK has signed up to stop the arms race as an early date and bring negotiations on a global abolition treaty and stop the arms race and lead to multilateral disarmament, not actually multilateral disarmament, but disarmament. The UK government doesn't see it that way. It kind of has a very different interpretation of the NPT to everyone else. So, for example, Tony Blair, when he was planning to replace Trident, says that we are justified to having nuclear weapons. We have a right to nuclear weapons as enshrined under the NPT. And Liam Fox has said recently, in terms of modernising our nuclear weapons, the NPT says that we have an obligation on the NPT to make sure our nuclear weapons are safe and reliable. So they don't. You wonder if they're just being willfully ignorant or just trying to pull the wool over our eyes on purpose. And I suspect the latter is probably more likely, but it's probably a mixture of the two. So in that sense, we need to there is an argument to say we need to now move beyond the NPT and really make sure that its obligations, for example, under Article 6, are realised. And this is why the Nuclear Weapons Convention has got a lot of support and did, for example, at the NPT in 2010 at the review conference, and why it was really emphasised and highlighted, for example, in the UN Secretary General's 5-point plan for disarmament, when he emphasised the need for a Nuclear Weapons Convention. As it would really cut to the core of the doctrines of deterrence and why states hold their nuclear weapons. That's why they resist it at the moment, because it really just sets out, we want to sign up to this very ambitious goal of saying no nukes, they're illegal. There have been two important precedents in terms of why nuclear weapons are illegal. Clearly there was the 1996 International Court of Justice decision saying that nuclear weapons are illegal, and states have a legal obligation to fulfil their Article 6 obligations. There was a slight loophole in that decision, in that it said that states could use nuclear weapons if there would be, it would be okay if they were in threat of mortal peril if they had a state threat. So we need to close that loophole and say that all uses of nuclear weapons in all circumstances would be illegal. The other question is in terms of the threat or use of nuclear weapons being illegal under international humanitarian law, so that planning to use them or actually using themselves would lead to you as a state leader actually going to jail, which would hopefully raise the bar the more and more. So we need to push those things as a way of, concurrently with the idea of a global ban. Okay, so prospects for a Nuclear Weapons Convention. I'll just talk a bit about how the UK government feels about it at the moment. Okay, so some of the things that the UK government have said about the Nuclear Weapons Convention. They say that it's premature and that it would conflict with the NPT. Some people also say that it's going nowhere. I've heard Foreign and Commonwealth officials saying that Foreign and Commonwealth Office officials saying that there hasn't been enough preparation done for it. I've even heard them say, I'm too busy looking at the Arms Trade Treaty, I haven't got time to look at this, all this kind of thing. These are just excuses, really, to divert attention away from the Nuclear Weapons Convention and towards the process they want to control. So they're quite happy to stick with the NPT because for them, under their interpretation, it allows them to have nuclear weapons. So we need to break away from that mindset a bit and look at really focusing our attention on how we can really hold them into account and say, now's the time to really sign up to this goal of zero nuclear weapons. Okay, so in terms of ICAN strategy, what I personally do is I produce documents and things like this, which is, I hope some of you will take away, which is a Q&A on the Nuclear Weapons Convention. And it is just 20 questions on how it would work, who supports it and so on. Hopefully we can talk a bit about how it would work. If you have any questions, usually they're questions in terms of like, is it feasible, is it possible, how would you verify it, how could it be established, how could you make it reversible, sorry, someone would cheat, someone would break the rules. So I'd be interested to hear any questions about that. At the moment, ICAN's working internationally to establish offices in Geneva and Oslo. We've got funding from the Norwegian government over the next few years to kind of spread the campaign around the world. So that's quite exciting. And we're looking at basically getting, for example, governments in the UK to sign everyday motions, to get parliamentarians to sign up to things like that, supporting a nuclear weapons convention. I'm like doing talks going around getting the public to become more aware of it. I think that's what's the really important thing at the moment, is getting the peace movement to really sign up to it, to build, so everyone kind of buys into this idea that we can be pushing for this. So when we say no trident replacement, we can then say, okay, so if you're saying no to that, what was your alternative, what you're looking for? And to understand and think and to be able to explain the Nuclear Weapons Convention, saying why it's not only desirable but realisable, I think is really important. Because of the benefits it could provide really over the next few years. Because ultimately, I think Alan spoke about the Strategic Defence and Security Review, and one of its main strap lines was like, you know, we need to hold onto our nuclear weapons because we're living in an age of uncertainty. So they're saying, you know, we've got threats all around us, clearly they're not really, you know, at the same time they're saying we've got threats all around us, we don't know what the world is going to be like in the next 10, 20 years. But yeah, they've just signed a deal, obviously, with France, the Anglo-French deal, saying that they're going to cooperate on nuclear weapons for the next 50 years. So at the same time, they're saying, you know, we don't know what the future is going to be, but they're kind of creating the future for themselves. They're perpetuating uncertainty, perpetuating insecurity through their investments and their own choices, but they refuse to recognise this. So we need to hold to account this and say there is an alternative way of dealing with security in the world that doesn't involve nuclear weapons, and that we can, you know, through things like a Nuclear Weapons Convention and a Global Abolition Treaty, look forward to a different kind of world. So yeah, I'd be really interested to hear any questions about that. I hope I've covered enough terrain. Yeah, thank you.